Entertain the troops? No way! What have they ever done for me?
Krusty, you made my daughter cry.
Hey, my intellectual property rights were being infringed. Do you know how that feels? Do you? Do you?
Patrick! SpongeBob's gone missing! Something terrible happened to him. Patrick, you open this door. Patrick, sometimes I just don't understand you. Hello, SpongeBob? SpongeBob? SpongeBob's tie and all his other little dressings. Where are you, little square dude? Gary? Where are you, little guy? Gary? Gary?
GameCube.
Pikachu, 私今日はエクササイズで行こう。
一緒にテレビを見たりお出かけしたりピカチュウと遊んで仲良くなろう。任天堂ゲームキューブポケモンチャンネル。
交代して。
ね、交代して。
I was introduced to the video game realm a tad later than most other people. For most, if not all, of my early childhood, I was isolated from other kids, and I had next to my no social interactions. My days were spent in prison-like school, and my nights rotted away from mind-numbing TV. Life was dull and boring, and all I had were my stuffed animals and cheap plastic toys to talk to. That's when I got a GameCube. It was Christmas of 2003. I believe I was overjoyed at having my own video game station. It came with the games Super Mario Sunshine, Pac-Man World 2, and Pokemon Channel. Each of these games still hold a special place in my heart today. As soon as the GameCube was set up and ready to go, I began to play it immediately. The first games I was playing was Super Mario Sunshine. This game was what got me hooked into Mario series. After playing an hour straight, finally beating the level I just couldn't get past, I turned to Pac-Man World 2. Amazing enough, I got stuck on level 2. Infuriated that I couldn't play the way out even though the answers was literally right in front of my eyes. I quit and started playing my first ever Pokemon game, Pokemon Channel. As soon as I turned on the game, I knew this game was going to be different from the other two. It didn't take long for me to fall in love with the game, but when time comes for me to name my Pikachu, I unwittingly named him BRVER, short for brother. What compelled me to give him such a strange nickname that I didn't even sounded like a shortened version of brother? I'll never know. But regardless, I still enjoy playing. There is no way for me to describe the love I felt towards this game. It was everything I ever dreamed of. In this game, I had a friend that I could play with. It took place in the Pokemon World 2. which I had already loved before I even got playing Pokemon Channel. I could watch TV with my best friend BRVER, go fishing with him, play tic-tac-toe with him, talk to other Pokemon with him, grew a garden with him, build a snowman with him, explore ancient ruins with him, play musicals with him, sit around campfires, tell stories with him, gaze at the stars with him, all things I could never get to experience in real life. I was able to do in this virtual world with BRVER, my best friend that I ever had. I was obviously overly addicted to the game, but I had nothing else to use up my time with. So instead, I put it all into this game. Obvious, so all the things happen in the real world, I prefer to live my life in this Pokemon fantasy with my best friend BRVER. BRVER seems like more than just a virtual anime 3D model focused on to his addiction actions based on the programming of the game. He seemed real to me. Even if I got sad one day, he would appear and look and act depressed too. If I was angry, he would show and express my rage during the play of the game too. I need something to cheer me up, he would act silly and lead me into other idiotic things too. Later on, I grew older and wiser. I just assumed that all these strange events never really happened when I was younger. I had just simply imagined it. But it was all the fun to pretend he was real. All the years passed. I got more games. I acquired Game Boy, which came with the more Pokemon games, where I could have more than just a single Pikachu. My interest also floated to different series like Mario and Sonic. After playing Pokemon Channel so many times and doing the same things over and over again, it started to get boring. I started playing less other games, and more I still gave Pokemon Channel a play every now and then. Eventually I changed schools and my whole life changed. I moved into a private Christian school to a public school, and my eyes were open to reality. I started to learn new things about real life, which helped me enjoy more. People weren't mean and cruel to me. They would greet me when I passed them into the hall. I discovered I could do more than just play video games. I could draw more. There were thousands of songs I could listen to. And my grades started dramatically rising. The best part of it is that I got a new friend, a real friend who was flesh and blood. She was funny, and she helped me get used to school and was someone I could talk to besides my parents. We both had some immature and mocked everything in every possible way I kind of minds. I finally had a best friend. While I started to grow in both body and mind, Pokemon Channel has slowly forgotten. I move on to the greater, better games. Almost all the games I could do in the games I was able to do in real life now. BRVER was replaced by my real best friend. He had the game to become obsolete or obsolete, forgotten on my dusty shelf in a dark corner of the room. For the next couple of years, life was golden. Each day I would learn something new, and then I had a ton of fun with my best friend. I made a few other friends too, but no one could top my bestest friend. Every now and then I get a new game, got some money, go do something with my best friend, draw something, learn music, listen to music. I never wish for anything more. Good things never last. Eventually I had to move. I protested and threw a fit, but not too evil, trying to stop the tears from falling down my face. I told my best friend goodbye on my last day of school. For the next few nights, I cried myself to sleep in my new house. But eventually I stopped, having one of my main reasons to live in life rip away, tore in a hole in my heart that will never be completely healed. But the pain eventually became less and less. I still had contact with my best friend though. We both had YouTube accounts. We would talk to each other over the internet. We call each other too, and sleepovers, and sometimes see a movie together. But it hurt to not have her at school anymore. I made some new friends at my new school, even more than my old school. But none of them as funny as my best friend. None of them could replace her. Just as I thought I could use this lifestyle, one of the most dreadful things happened. For her sake, I won't post what my friend did, but she did something horrible, and my mom refused to let me speak to or see her ever again. My heart was utterly smashed into thousands of pieces. I felt like I had nothing left to live for. My best and what felt like my only friend was gone from me forever. I now sucked back into my old habits, playing video games and isolating myself from the rest of the world. I didn't go out anymore. I refused to leave in my room except to go to school, eat, use the restroom, and visit my dad every other weekend. Now that my best friend has been snatched away from me, and that I didn't do anything in real life anymore, I needed something to replace them. Searching through my ancient self of old games, I pulled out the Pokemon channel. I brushed the dust off of the cover. I feel like it had been an eternity since I gazed upon the game. I inserted the game disc into the GameCube, grabbed my controller, and I waited to my greet an old virtual friend, BRVER. A tear flowed down my cheek as memories flooded back while I started to stare at the title screen. After a moment of soaking in an old nostalgia, I selected continued. I eagerly selected yes when information appeared of my currently saved the game, as if it was corrected. As the transmission Pokeballs rolled across the screen, I just couldn't wait to see BRVER again. When the transition is over, I appeared to be in my room. The normal cutscene where Pikachu is asleep on top of a shelf and wakes up didn't play. But at this moment, I had almost completely forgotten about that. The only thing in my mind was BRVER. As I searched around the room though, he wasn't anywhere in sight. The drill bird that delivers the goods you buy from the shop in Squirtle channel was at the door. I smiled warmly at the sight. I remember I brought something from that channel almost every day when I was younger. I thought it must have brought something last time I played, completely forgotten about it. Curious about what is in delivery, I urgently head for the door.
A deep moaning sound stopped me before I could reach the door. I turned the screen and saw BRVR climbing out from under the bed. He looked beat up and depressed. I had never seen him climb out from underneath the bed before, except for when he's searching for Pokemon Mini in the beginning of the game. He turned and saw me, and a shocked expression came over his face like it normally should. "Hey brother, it's me," I whispered even though I knew he couldn't hear me. Instead of a joyous look and cheering "Pika Pika," he acquired an infuriated look on his face. I was a bit confused as to why he was angry, but before I could ponder the subject, "Yibbidi!" the delibird called again from the front door. Banishing the whole incident from my thoughts, I turned and opened the door. I was comforted when the delibird handed over the box and BRVR smiled and waved as the delibird flew off. A package arrived with merchandise from the shop in Squirtle. I quickly pressed A as that message appeared. I wondered what was inside, as BRVR leaned inside the box and took out the items. "You got a Pikachu TV-Z! The Pikachu TV-Z has been displayed." A menacing and quite gruesome looking Pikachu TV was set up in the replacement of my old Vortor TV. It looked like a Pikachu head facing towards you with its jaws wide open. Inside its mouth was the TV screen, with its fangs hanging over the top and bottom. It looked like the skin was tearing and ripping apart in places, like the TV screen was too large for its mouth. I was a bit shocked at how scary the TV looked. "You got the red wallpaper Z. The wallpaper has been displayed." I gasped when the wallpaper was put up. It was dark red, like dried blood. Pikachus with sick, twisted smiles were repeated all across it. They were each bright red, like freshly drawn blood. I was beginning to worry. You got Pikachu Doll Z. The doll has been displayed. I winced with fear when I saw the morbid Pikachu placed on top of one of the shelves. It had the same eerie grin as the Pikachus on the wallpaper, except with long fangs. Its eyes were small, ruby red and dilated. The tip of its tail curved inwards like a hook, and it had sharp looking claws. Numerous dried streaks of blood ran the length of its body. You got Pikachu Doll Z. The doll has been displayed. You got Pikachu Doll Z. The doll has been displayed. You got Pikachu Doll Z. 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 Pikachu Doll.
What did you say?
Rupert. Humped him for 2 hours yesterday. He just laid there and took it.
Did he?
Yeah, and now every time you're sleeping with him, he's gonna be thinking of me.
The doll has been displayed. The same sequence happened over and over until the entire room was filled with disturbing Pikachu dolls. They replaced all the other dolls. BRVR got up and looked around the room. He nodded in satisfaction and walked towards TV. I sat in my chair, stricken with fear. Even though it had been years since I played the game, I knew these items were never in it. Pika! A threatening and commanding call came from Pikachu. He was standing in front of the TV, giving me a glare. I knew he wanted me to go over there. I walked to the TV and turned it on. It opened to the report channel like normal, but to my horror, the screen looked like it had blood dripping down it. I changed the channels, and they all looked that way. I quickly opened up my diary, which in this game is the start menu, and clicked on the TVs tab. I chose the Voltorb TV, but as soon as I did, my diary closed without me pressing B. BRVR was staring at me with a threatening glare and shook his head disapprovingly. BRVR turned back to the TV and changed it to the Fortune channel. This channel seemed normal, except for the blood dripping down the screen. Choose your cookie. The words drifted by the bottom of the TV screen. I chose the top one like I always do. Cookie floated down into the Chansey's hands and cracked open. Do you really want to know your fortune? The words appeared on screen. I froze with fear. Something about that fortune seemed eerie. It appeared that the Chansey on the screen was laughing. BRVR changed channel again. He changed it to the relaxation channel. Instead of the fluffy Mareep, what greeted me was morbid Pikachus that looked just like the dolls jumping over a fence. I quickly pressed B and went back to the center of the room. Normally, BRVR would turn around and motion me to come back and watch it with him, but this time, he didn't seem to care. I walked over to my old painting, a beautifully colored Jirachi, surrounded by a cute Pikachu border hung against the wall. I sighed with relief. At least one thing was still normal. It took a few moments to stare at the old painting, mostly just because I didn't want to look at the gruesome wallpaper or the horrifying dolls. BRVR is looking at the painting too. Chills went through my spine as that message appeared, even though it was normal for your Pikachu to stare at your painting with you. I pressed B. Sure enough, BRVR was standing in front of the painting. It seemed like he had a sad expression, like he was remembering long-lost memories. He turned to me, still with the same depressed expression. He looked like he was about to cry. I felt sorry for him and wished there was something I could do to cheer him up. BRVR walked up to me and asked me a question, which is normal for your Pikachu to ask you a question every now and then. But what made my blood chill was what he asked. BRVR wants to know if you still love him. It had an circle, yes, and an X, no option. BRVR has never asked that before. I immediately clicked circle. He smiled, and then bent over laughing. I was a bit confused as to why he was having a laughing fit, but when he was done laughing, he looked back up at me with an evil smile. A message appeared at the top of the screen. BRVR knows when you're lying. He turned back to watch the TV. By this point, I didn't know what to do anymore. I knew for sure that all this wasn't supposed to be happening. I thought that maybe if I restarted my GameCube, everything would go back to normal. I got up and reached for the restart button, but when I pressed it, nothing happened. I pressed it a second time, and still nothing. The game cannot be reset right now. The message appeared on the screen. My heart stopped beating for a second. After dumbly staring at the screen for a solid minute, I sat back down and decided I would continue playing. Might as well see where this goes, I whispered to myself. I just looked around the room for a minute. Other than the wallpapers, the dolls and the TV, everything seemed to be the same. I tried to smile while looking at the old Pokemon mini posters, but I couldn't bring myself to. The normally cute and cheerful music seemed to make the room more dark and disturbing. It looked as if all the morbid dolls had their eyes focused on me, like they were about to reach out and grab me, then slowly tear apart and devour my flesh.
Thanks for the ride, Hank.
This is the dumbest thing you've ever done. You could have lost a finger.
Oh, God!
These things,
I don't believe it. You would never betray me.
Can you keep a secret?